we talk to business owners, when we ask every one of them, right, what's the most important thing to you? It's my kids, it's my family, it's my relationships. Yet, they put on a mask, they put on a facade, and the people that are in their lives, the people that they want to be close to, only get to know their representative. And this causes so much strife and problems within their life that eventually it has to spill into their business. Hello, everyone, and welcome to another episode of The Powerful Man Show. I am your host, Doug Holt, with my co-host, Tim Matthews. Tim, how you doing, man?
Absolutely fantastic. How are you?
I'm doing well. Great day. We've been talking off air for a couple hours now, so it's kind of funny to jump on, hit record, but we've had some great conversations, and we always start off doing this where we're going to jump right into these episodes to share the content, and then you and I just start going off onto these tangents, talking about all the men that we've been working with and what they're up to. But Tim, you had a special comment that we were talking about that we wanted to bring on to air and share with it in the hope that it would help some of the listeners.
Yeah, I did. And so this week, I was working with a new client, the guy that joined the activation method, and we're doing his onboarding. And his story was such a common one from a lot of the other men that have also been through the activation method where they start. And yeah, I want to share it with the listeners just to see, one, if they resonate with it, and two, discuss how to solve it so that if any of the listeners are experiencing it, then we can add some value and support them a little bit. So here's where this guy was at. He is a successful entrepreneur, an award-winning entrepreneur. He does really well financially. He does really well professionally. He's got a son who he absolutely adores. And to everybody else, this guy has it all. You know, he's got everything together. He's the happy-go-lucky sales guy, walks into a room, people love him, he's confident, he drives a car, he's got the money, he's got the freedom, he's got the choice, he's got the ability. But behind closed doors, he doesn't know how the fuck he got there. In his own words, he feels lucky and he's afraid that it could be ripped out from underneath him at any time. And as a result, he doesn't trust many people. He doesn't trust his staff very well, not as well as he could do at least, which means he's quite controlling. He doesn't lead his company in the way that he knows he could lead it. He then overworks, he then hustles, he then works long hours. And this then means he encroaches on his relationships. And one of the reasons why he joined the program was he wanted to break the cycle, because his past two relationships have both ended because of his working hours and his business. And he feels torn because he loves his business. But at the same time, he also wants to be in love with himself and with a woman that he absolutely adores. He's not with the mother of his son. And he feels very trapped right now. He feels trapped by the burden of his business and trapped by how everybody else sees him and how everybody else perceives him and what they perceive him to be. Because like I said right at the start of this, behind closed doors, he does not feel or see himself in the way that others see him. And the guilt and the shame are weighing really, really heavy on his mind and on his heart. And as a result, he's in this pattern of sedation and sabotage, and he wants to break it.
Wow. I mean, a couple things come up, right? This is such a common thread for business owners and for men that are out there. And there's so many things that are going on for this guy. But first, kudos to him. And I know who you're talking about for just stepping up and raising your hand. Because when you know there's something better, there's nothing scarier than actually raising your hand and admitting it and trying to get help. Or not even trying, but just actually doing it and getting help. So kudos for him. And wearing the mask, right? That's, we call it wearing the mask, and people call it facades or whatever it may be for the individual. But that just seems to perpetuate the problem, doesn't it?
Yeah, he's really afraid to take it off. He's afraid to let people into his life, be it his team, his staff, his family, the ex relationships he's been in. He's afraid to let people into his life and show them the real him in case they take advantage of him, and it's perceived as a weakness. So as a result, he puts on this facade, the mask, and the more he chooses to wear the mask, in his own words, he called himself a chameleon. He molds to change and suit the environment and the people that he's with. And the more that he does that, the more that he has done it, the heavier the mask has weighed. It's almost like he's dug a hole for himself. And now he's ashamed and he's afraid to take the mask off in case of what people will think of the real him, in case he's then rejected, in case he's then not good enough. And we spoke about this with his staff and his business, because his business is in a huge growth phase, which is really exciting. But naturally, he is the bottleneck in the business. And the business is not going to get where it's capable of being with this type of leadership. It's just not. And he's afraid that if he shows his staff the real him, then they'll walk away. Because the real him isn't strong enough, isn't good enough, isn't worthy enough. And he's afraid of showing his emotion in case it's deemed as weakness.
Yeah, that's the problem with that, wearing the mask, so to speak, or, and I'm sure there's so many people that can relate to this, is you put on this persona on social media. Let's just use Facebook or Instagram, and about how amazing your life is and all these great things that are going on. And then you feel like you need to live up to these expectations. But the voice in the back of your head has this imposter syndrome going through and going, look, that's not really how it is. You're not showing the fights with your wife, the things that are going on at work, the fires that you're putting out, and almost setting up a undercurrent of self-sabotage because you don't feel good enough, because you feel as if you're lying to everybody else. And then you're on this hamster wheel type experience where you're always trying to keep up with this persona. And as you keep up with this persona, you obviously become disconnected with yourself, but also the people around you, the people that you know, are also disconnected from you because they're not getting to know the true you. And what we talk about when we talk to business owners, when we're working with them, right, they're very involved in their business. When we ask every one of them, right, what's the most important thing to you? It's my kids, it's my family, it's my relationships. Yet they put on a mask, they put on a facade, and the people that are in their lives, the people that they want to be close to, only get to know their representative. And this causes so much strife and problems within their life that eventually it has to spill into their business.
Yeah, completely. I mean, this guy in particular was telling me about one time he was sat with his ex-girlfriend on the sofa, obviously before they split up, and she turned to him and tapped him on the chest and was like, "Who are you really? Who is this guy? Because I don't feel like I'm getting the real you. Who are you?" And he said, "Tim, I couldn't answer it. For weeks, I couldn't answer it. Like, it really, really struck a chord, because I realized that for all my life, I have been people-pleasing and self-sacrificing. Sure, he's been successful in business. He is successful in business. But like a lot of the guys when we first worked with them, Doug, they've got there, and he got there through sheer brute force. From literally pushing the boulder up the hill night and day, no matter what it took, boom, 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 boom. We speak a lot about there being one destination and two paths. And for him, when he got asked this question by his ex-girlfriend, it really, really struck a chord. And that's where he starts to feel trapped by the mask, because the people-pleasing and self-sacrifice has then meant that he's shown up in his life for everybody else, based on how everybody else perceives him, based on what everybody else wants him to do, and then posting things, like you say, on social media to back up what everybody else thinks of him, to prove it. But then behind closed doors, when the world isn't watching, he doesn't want any of that stuff for the most part. And that isn't who he is. And the longer this goes on, the heavier the burden weighs. And it's almost like the more the mask gets welded to his face, the tougher it is for him to get his fingers behind it and pull it off. Or so he thinks. In reality, it can be very simple. It can feel scary as hell, and it can be quite painful, the process going through it to take the mask off, that process of coming clean, of getting the skeletons out of the closet, of being honest with yourself and with everybody else. It can be a very scary experience, a very painful experience, also a very, very worthwhile experience.
Hey guys, I had to interrupt this show because I want to talk to you about a case study we put together. It's only 11 minutes, and what we do is we go over and show you how almost 300 men have taken control of their life, have already 4x'd their business revenue, and are having more connected and intimate sex with their partner using the activation method. Now, they're doing all this without burning down their relationships and without suffering and sacrificing for their health. We want you to have this too, so go over to thepowerfulman.com/11, the number 11, and get this right now. It's only 11 minutes, and it's going to show you exactly how these men have done it. All right, let's get back to the episode.
What are the top 3 things that people listening to this, guys that are going, man, how does Tim in my head right now, how does he know what's going on with me and my business? What are the top 3 things that these guys could do?
Top 3 things. First one is to accept. Just accept where they are. In fact, I'll take it a step back because there's something really relevant right here, Doug, as I was speaking about acceptance that we teach. And, I want these guys to understand it and apply it if they think it's going to benefit them. And those 3 things are awareness, acceptance, and allowance. That's the cycle that we take these guys through, this guy in particular, in the early stages, the pre-foundation stages, before we even do any goal setting or any action or any accountability. It's all about awareness, acceptance, and allowance. And awareness is obviously becoming aware of the fact that you're unhappy, becoming aware of the fact that you're wearing a mask, and what does it look like for you to wear this mask? And for this guy in particular, almost said his name there. For this guy in particular, what we do is we take him through a process whereby we draw the mask out. So he pulled out a sheet of A4 paper. He draws a big stick man in the middle of the A4 sheet of paper, and you guys could do this. Draw a big stick man in the middle of the A4 sheet of paper. And in the top left-hand corner, write thoughts. In the top right-hand corner, write feelings. Bottom left, write actions. Bottom right, write language. Now, those 4 areas, they're the 4 pillars of your being. And those are the areas in which the mask that you wear manipulates you and reinforces you and influences you. So then what we do is start to go through, okay, so what are the dominant beliefs when you're wearing the mask? And for this guy, his dominant beliefs was, I'm a fraud. I'm not good enough. I'm a chancer. All of those dominant beliefs were coming up for him. So for you, what are yours? When you're wearing the mask, what are your dominant beliefs? And then what are the dominant feelings? He felt trapped. He felt overwhelmed. He felt confused. He felt anxious. He felt angry. He felt numb as well. So for you, what are the dominant feelings you experience when you're wearing the mask? And then actions. What are the actions that you take? Again, for this guy, he would avoid confrontation. He would people please. He would self-sacrifice. He would work late. He would numb with food. He would numb himself with alcohol. He would spend money to feel good. All these different actions that he was taking. And then language. How do you show up? How do you hold yourself? What are your facial expressions? How do you communicate your voice? Language is all about body language. Paint the picture. And what this does is bring awareness to what the mask actually looks like. When you're wearing it, it brings it into reality. And then what you do is write a name. Give the mask a name. Examples in the past, well, the example that this guy used for his was desperado. When he's wearing the mask, that's what he feels like. He feels like desperado, a desperate, needy guy who's unconfident, unsure, overwhelmed, and everything else I described there. From there, once you become aware, accept. Drop the labels, drop the judgment around things being good or bad, drop the bravado, drop everything, and accept this is where you are. And that's just it. It's just where you are. It's not good. It's not bad. It's life. You're a human being. It's just where you are. And then obviously start to allow yourself to really be who you want to be. How do you do that? Start to have the conversations with the people that you know you get to have the conversations with. For him, one of them was with his mother. A lot of his feelings of inadequacy and not being good enough came from him never feeling like he did his mother proud. He never felt like his father loved him. He was afraid of letting the woman that he loved into his life. Have a conversation with her. Take ownership. Tell her that you're afraid of letting her into your life, and this is why you're afraid. Make it about you. Don't point the finger. Don't be a victim. Take ownership of it. Come clean. Be real. And what you start to do in this process is you start to take the skeletons out of the closet. And this becomes really addictive, because once you do it 2 or 3 times and you realize that you're not going to die and it's actually okay, it's just a conversation. It's almost like if you imagine, you're looking at yourself in a mirror and there's a lot of mud that's been thrown at the mirror and you can't really see yourself. You're seeing yourself all hazy and foggy. With every skeleton you take out of the closet, it's like you wipe one of those spots of mud off. And bit by bit, you can start to see yourself for who you really are. And you realize that wiping off those spots of mud isn't as scary and painful as you thought it was going to be. And you actually, the more you do it, the more addictive it is, because you feel free. You feel free, and the burden of the guilt and the shame that's been weighing you down starts to be lifted.
Absolutely amazing. Guys, listen to this. Go back and listen to it again and again. This process is pure gold, and going through it. Tim, as always, so much information going through here, and we're getting so many responses from the men and women who want their men to be listening to this podcast, and going through it. And oftentimes we're talking about stories of our clients and things that we're working on, and men that are coming through there and coming through the different programs, and we'll continue to do so. When you see these guys that are going through, and these guys that are writing in, any parting words of wisdom for those that are kind of, on the fence, just feeling desperado-ish and not willing to step out and raise their hands? They're feeling desperate. They're feeling lonely. What would you say?
It's not as bad as you think. It's not.
Never is.
Never is. You shared a great exercise with me, Doug, a while ago, whereby we to actually write down the story that you're telling yourself. Actually, to sit down and write it out, let yourself think it, express it. I believe I'm this, and because of this, and that happened, and he did this, and whatever. Write the entire story out that you're reliving day in, day out, in your head, and actually went through it and underlined the facts. There'd be very few words that would be underlined. And that's because it's not as bad as it is. It's just a habit that you've got into. And yeah, you may have fucked up. So what? You're a human being. It's life, but it's not as bad as it is. So just don't beat yourself up about it, and raise your hand if you feel like you want to do that. And whether it's with us, whether it's with someone, whatever, just raise your hand. Don't go it alone, because you don't need to. As human beings, we all crave connection, and we're all, we are tribal beings, aren't we? So don't go it alone. There's no need.
Human beings, not human doings. Well, Tim, as always, man, always great to connect with you. And I always learn so much when we actually have these conversations. I've taken a lot of notes, and I'm going to go back through them as well. So until next week, my friend, great seeing you, and have an amazing day.
Yeah, you too.